Howdy, and welcome back to another Workshop Wednesday. This time it's a strategy session edition, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite topics, how to measure what cannot be measured. In other words, how do we deal with invisible data that we know is there but just can't quite get our hands on? We're going to talk all about that in today's workshop. But first, for those that are new to Workshop Wednesday, welcome. My name is Chris Mercer. I actually do go by Mercer. You should call me Mercer as well. I'm the co-founder of measurementmarketing.io. And whether you found us through the podcast and talks that we give out quite a bit, or maybe you've seen some of the content where we share some of our content with platforms like CXL Institute, Social Media Examiner, Digital Marketer, Measure Summit. Maybe you're already a member, whether a Academy member or a member of the free Toolbox membership that we have over at measurementmarketing.io. However you found us, we are happy that you are here. It is our job to help people like you learn how to use all these cool tools. And sometimes in these workshops, we'll talk about actually using analytics and show you some stuff in there. This is a strategy session. So this is about how to think about stuff. And for this, we like to cover the framework. We always make sure we cover the measurement marketing framework. So here it is. This is new, by the way, for many of you who have been with us for a while. This is the first time you're seeing this. So the framework really is 3 key steps when you're measuring your marketing. You want to plan, you want to build, you want to act. Now, why do you want to do this? Well, first, because in the beginning, you're kind of marketing in the blind, at least a lot of people are. And what they're trying to do is they want to build a system that predictably, reliably produces revenue and profits with the marketing efforts, right? That's what we all want. So how do we do that? Well, first, again, you start with planning. The planning stage starts with asking the right questions, gathering the information needed to answer those questions, and ultimately thinking through what actions you're going to take based upon the answers you get. Once you've got your plan in place, then you move into the build out, where you first focus on the traffic to make sure that you know who the traffic is and who's sending you traffic and what type of traffic it is and why it's coming there and all that fun stuff. Then you want to make sure that you've measuring results, right? What results that you're trying to get, how you actually got those results, that sort of stuff. Then you stitch those two things together in a proper structure that starts to tell a story. When you have that set up, that's where you're using tools like analytics and tag manager and all that fun stuff. When you do that, now you've got something you actually act on. You start by, of course, reading those reports. You make sure you're reading them in a certain way to make sure you're getting a useful truth from them. Once you've read the reports, you can then start to use those benchmarks to forecast your near future, asking the famous question, is this working like it's supposed to? And then you measure against those forecasts. That's where you learn how to optimize. You will see what's working and what's not. And that's what ultimately leads you. Following that process, this framework will lead you to getting some really improved, dramatically improved results from your own marketing efforts. Now, of course, that's what we teach here at measurementmarketing.io. Now, with these workshops, I like just focusing on one thing because it can be a little overwhelming if you try to hang on to every little thing I'm talking about. So just focus on one new idea, one new concept, one new way of looking at something that you kind of go like, I haven't seen it that way. Let's see how I can apply this in my organization. Then maybe you rewatch this workshop later, and at that point, you'll pick up another new one thing because your own skills have improved. So you see something else every single time you watch these workshops, which is why we allow them out there. All right, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? Strategy session. How to measure what can't be measured. In other words, how to deal with invisible data. All right, we're just going to go ahead and get started now. This is a strategy session, so I'm going to bring my favorite tool, which is Lucidchart, for teaching all this fun stuff. Here's how we're going to think about this. Here you are. You are the supermarketer, right? You're the person responsible for measuring all this stuff, and you like all this juicy data because you need all this juicy data. You got a million things going on. You're trying to make cool decisions. You're trying to guide the company, especially if you're in the strategy side of things, trying to guide the company, trying to guide the marketing efforts, trying to figure out what needs to change. Is it the ad targeting? Is it the vendor? Is it maybe the offers on the page? Is it the entire website is junk and you've got to redesign it? You're trying to figure out all this stuff, and you need all this juicy data. And for years, since the beginning of digital time, you've had lots and lots of juicy data. Maybe too much. There's a lot of data out there, and maybe you weren't even using most of it, but it's a ton. So what do you do when you've got all of this juicy data and you're used to all this juicy data and you've got your systems, but then all of a sudden, off to the side here, we have, I really should make this more gray. I'm going to make it gray. We have our little superstorm that's starting to appear. Ooh, dark clouds. That's exactly what's happening. We have a superstorm out in the distance. And what's been happening is with time, the superstorm is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And really, we find that it is 3 distinctly different superstorms that are raining down upon our poor marketer here, right? They're raining down upon our marketer. And more importantly, what they're starting to do is kind of drain our data. In fact, I'm going to try to do this. I didn't practice this. I should have, because it's a cool idea I just had. And that's why I love teaching these things live. So what's starting to happen is it's kind of looking like maybe this a little bit. Let's try this. Ooh, I think I know exactly what I can do. So now they're draining our data. We don't have as much as we once did. We can only have a little bit of access, and our data is going down more and more and more. And that's not great, right? We used to have all this juicy data. Now we don't have a bunch of it. It's kind of gone invisible. This is because of the superstorm. Now, what is the superstorm? 3 big areas that's happening right now. These are the big giant trends. You cannot avoid these. These are happening to you right now as you watch this video. And here's the super secret, not so secret. They're going to continue to happen. Storms are going to get bigger. Here's the first storm. This is the first one actually came on the scene, actually. It's kind of why it's the oldest one back there. This is laws. Country laws, GDPR, a big famous storm. But these storms have been coming forever. They just hit certain aspects. It used to be Can Spam Act, right, for email marketing and that sort of stuff. And there's been laws in legislation that have come in, and they will continue to come in, and they will get more and more and more. Only now they're really focused on data privacy. So that's why it's affecting all of us and from the measurement and the marketing world. So you've got laws that are coming in. Big giant superstorm, been around forever, will continue to get bigger and bigger and bigger as more and more countries come on board. California recently announced one, which means the United States as a country is not far behind, and so will the rest. It'll just be more. So more laws will come down. That's superstorm number 1 that is kind of draining the data that we have access to, right? These laws. Second thing that's coming down is we have tech. Now, this one is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. For those of you who have been following what's going on, there's been a little tiff, a little spat between Apple and Facebook that's been going on since the beginning of 2021, kind of the end of 2020, but definitely into 2021. And Facebook's out there fighting for the little guy, making sure that, we don't want big bad Apple to hurt the small businesses. We all know that's not a real good argument, but whatever, it's all Facebook's got. However, tech is an issue. Facebook, yes, they've got their issues, of course. Apple changing things on iOS and Facebook not really prepared for it. They got caught and they're going to have their own issues. So you got that. But that's not it. That's the one grabbing the headlines right now, of course, because as we're recording this video right toward the end of April 2021, iOS 14.5 finally released into the world to see what that's going to happen there. But that is such a small thing in the grander world of what's going on, because last year, Safari changed everything. Safari said, hey, cookies only last 7 days now. Right? A year before that, they said third-party cookies, you can't even use those anymore. Google next year with Chrome, third-party cookies doesn't exist anymore. So it's not just this whole Facebook and Apple and iOS thing that you have to concern yourself with. It's tech in general, is making sure that you don't have access to all of the data that you once did. So that's going invisible, right? So the laws are hurting us. Tech is hurting us, that big superstorm. And each of these on their own would be a challenge. 2 of them together, whew. But wait, there's more. And that is users. Now, they've actually had kind of a tiny voice. They've been on the fringe, but to be completely honest, they're being encouraged more and more and more and more and more and more and more by laws and tech. Users do not want their data tracked. Nobody opts in for data. Facebook's going to find that out with this Apple iOS update. That people, generally speaking, aren't really convinced by your argument that I have their best interests at heart and I'm going to send you personalized ads that are relevant to you. People don't really think that's happening. They just think that you're claiming all their data. And then, to be fair, that's kind of what happened. Is why we find ourselves in this situation. So laws, tech, and users are the biggest superstorm that are coming through, and all of them are combining right now to rain down and suck out all this data. That's essentially what's happening. All this data is going in here, not really to you anymore, right? As the marketer, you're used to seeing this. What are you supposed to do with this? How do we think about this? How do we deal with this? I guess we just don't measure stuff anymore? No, that's not an option. Well, I guess we don't trust our measurements? No, that's not an option. You just have to measure better. And that's what we're going to talk about today in the remaining part of this workshop. Now, remember, this is a strategy session, and this is where I think a lot of measurement marketing people in general are trying to learn measurement marketing. This is where they go wrong, because they're thinking about it like, oh, I have to have accurate data. We always call that the A word here, because there is no such thing as accuracy. Never existed, never will. But they think they need to have this accurate data. They think they need to have every little piece of thing that's going on. And in reality, you don't. You absolutely don't. Remember this phrase. We say it often here, but we're going to say it again because it's important. The truth is in the trend. The power is in the pattern. The truth is in the trend. The power is in the pattern. At no time in history has that been more important for you as a measurement marketer than right now to remember that phrase. The power is in the pattern, right? Truth is in the trend. Power is in the pattern. Okay. Why? Why is it such an important thing? Well, for that, I'm going to bring this little up. I'm going to get a little geekier here. So I want to, again, this is just a rough framework to give you a rough understanding of how to think about this. I know there's lots of different details and questions and things like that people will have. If you're a member, Ask Instructor Support in the Academy is a perfect place to ask for that stuff. But I wanted to at least communicate the rough idea, because the same framework applies kind of no matter what. No matter what you're thinking about, this framework will apply. Sometimes there might be a little nuance to it, but generally speaking, this will apply. So here's what's going on, essentially. We have, back in the day, the before times, we had the different behaviors that we were trying to measure for, and these were visible behaviors. I mean, we've got visible here, which again, remember, you're not worrying about numbers. I get that numbers are a thing. I get data tables, but if you're like me, you're not really a big, like, yes, I get numbers, but I don't want to deal with numbers all day long. It's not my thing. I understand I am trying to improve and influence behaviors that are happening on the page, right? So that's why we have behaviors here. So the visible are behaviors that are happening on the pages, and they are able to be measured. That's visible. And invisible would be behaviors that are not able to be measured now for whatever reason, right? Who cares? Whether the text stopped it, an ad blocker stopped it, the law stopped it, whatever. It doesn't matter. It's not there anymore. But it doesn't mean they're not on your site. It just means that you don't know that, right? So they're invisible. They're ghosts. So we have visible and invisible. Currently, or I should say back in the day, it used to be that a lot of these behaviors were visible, right? Not all of them, but a good chunk of them, most of them, in fact, were visible behaviors. So if you, as a marketer, were trying to measure for a process like this, how many people saw the offer, how many people started my checkout, how many people purchased, you could use a platform like Google Analytics to record all 3 bits. Now, why are you using that? Right? Because really, do you care about this? Honestly, I'll tell you, you don't. I love Google Analytics, but I don't care. If I don't have to use it, I don't want to use it. But we have to use it because we need to collect the information. Why? Not so that we can use Google Analytics. It's so that we can do this stuff down here, so we can adjust our setup, so we can understand how, not only what the results that we're getting, but how we're getting those results. So we use a platform like Google Analytics to measure for these behaviors. Then this is where we're actually doing our work, right? This is our job to figure out what our results are and to guide and answer questions like, well, how many page views do I need to, how much traffic should I send to my pages to get X amount of sales? So let's pretend for a moment, we're going to role play this here just to kind of run through this a couple times. Let's pretend that we were measuring, this is the before times, right? We were measuring and we had good visibility into everything. There really wasn't so much, we didn't care about invisible data because it was hardly there anyway. So we can measure most of the data most of the time. We're all super happy. And we find out that 100 people saw our offer. We saw 10 people see the checkout. We had 5 people purchase. Okay, now pretty quickly, and if you're not doing this part of it, you absolutely have to do this. So what I'm doing is, the reason that I think like I think, the reason that I can maneuver my company through these storms is because I measure incredibly well, because I measure behaviors and because I know all of these different numbers. So if you don't know what I'm about to do, this is your first step. Make sure you at least got these basics down. Don't try to paint the house before you build the foundation, right? Okay, so I need to know my results and how I get these numbers from a platform, let's say Google Analytics in this example. So I see that I had 5 sales, I had 10 people go to the checkout, I see 100 people started. So what are my conversion rates here? Well, I'm going to keep them pretty basic, right, for this sake. Typically, they'd be a range, but I'm going to keep it easy. So we're going to say 10% is what it was, right? We had 10 people on the checkout, 100 people started, therefore 10% made it to that step. Of these, of the 10 to the 5, how many actually purchased, right? So from 10 to 5, oh, well, that's 50%, 5 divided by 10, pretty simple. Again, typically it's going to be a range, but for training's sake, we'll keep it nice and easy. So there's our 50%. So we know we had 10% that converted on step 1. Of those, step 2 to step 3, 50% converted. Ultimately, what does that make my conversion rate from the funnel overall? Well, 5 finished, 100 started. So that's 5%. So we know that in general, this traffic was probably warm traffic at that sort of conversion rate. So kind of a warm traffic, knew our brand, converted as expected, 5% of the people bought. Now, of course, if you know how much revenue it was and what your cart sales are and all that other nickel and dime stuff, you can then extrapolate it out and say what total revenue was, profit, et cetera. But we're going to keep it really easy, just focused on units. So I know what we call our results and how. You need to know your results that you're getting, which in this case, 5 sales. But more importantly, so much more importantly, you have to know the how steps. You have to know these steps. Not an option to not know this. If you don't have visibility into how you're achieving your results, just right now, you focus your team on doing that because you're blind and you cannot be blind. Okay, so let's assume that we know this, right? We have this. We're happy marketers. We're getting a ton of data. And then the superstorms come in, right? All this junk starts happening and it's just starting to suck out our data. And so now what was visible starts to not be so much, right? And I'm just going to use analytics, but remember this applies to everything that's out there in the world of measurement. Oops. I'm just going to go ahead and pull these. And so what we're going to do here is just sort of select these, which I did a horrible job at doing, but you'll get the idea. So we're going to say a good chunk of this, even from Google Analytics, right? The platform itself, these all sort of start to go a little bit gray. Okay, so we're starting to see like not all the data is there. In fact, the platform, let's pretend for a moment this is the worst of the worst. Ad blockers, right? Worst of the worst. The tech stops it. They're using Brave as a browser. Oh my God, what if the world goes to Brave? Okay, obviously that stuff is happening. So let's say platform doesn't even know. Now the behavior is happening still. People are still seeing your offer, maybe on the Brave browser. People are still going to check out, right? And they are still purchasing, but it's invisible now. So what was a bunch of really cool, juicy data all lit up, now not so much, right? It's a little lighter. You don't have as much as you want. The Google Analytics data doesn't have as much as you want, but it's got a decent amount, okay? So what do? We know that this data, we know this is happening. This is a trend that's happening. So what starts to happen at a certain point in time is you will see numbers go down. And you have to ask yourself two questions, really. One, am I getting everything from the right platform? Am I getting my truth from the right platform? And is there a way for me to get a better source of data? So if there was a way for you to get a better source than Google Analytics, go for it. Go get a better source from Google Analytics. If you have an internal company database that's measuring everything from the server, great, go forth and do that. Most of us are not in that position. I'm not. So I can't really see page views and checkout views and all that stuff, at least not easily on my end. I have to use analytics for that. And I still am. However, what can I do for purchases? What is the best source of truth when it comes to a purchase? Well, it's not really Google Analytics because Google Analytics is just told. So for me, it's our CRM, right? It's our cart system. That is the best source of truth because that's the thing that actually collecting credit card information. So purchase, first step I make is I go, oh, I'm going to redefine this. So now purchase is what I'm going to change. I'm not going to get my purchase information from Google anymore, Google Analytics. I'm going to get it from the CRM because the CRM is the better spot to get it from. And it's immune to invisibility. It cannot ever go invisible because somebody cannot invisibly buy. They have to give us the credit card. The credit card has to be charged. The success signal has to come through. The product has to be shipped. In our case, the membership account created and everything else cannot be invisible. Has to be measured. The system has to know that, right? Everybody gets that. Users don't care. Of course they want that. Tech doesn't care. Of course it wants that. Laws don't care. Of course they want that. That's just a functioning world. So that's never going to go away. So now I've got this nice, big, juicy data set again, only this time it's because I've changed what my source is. So instead of, I use something more useful to me, right? So now I've got this. This is already covered. So now I'm going to go back and we're going to pretend what our new numbers might look like as we measure everything, right? We have our data coming in. I'm going to keep this 5 here just to kind of present the example that, you know what, the purchases are still useful. 5 came in. We didn't lose any data. Let's say this is 90 days from now. We remeasure everything. We see 5 sales. Great. Still had my 5 sales. Only now it shows something like 5. Let's say we lost half the data. 5. Okay. So this is coming in because these have now gone gray. And when I say gray, I'm just going to make them gray, meaning there is more than 50 there. We know there's more than 50, but it's invisible. And I'm doing worst case scenario, like half of it's gone away, right? So let's say even more than that's technically okay. But let's say half of it goes away overnight. If half of it goes away, the 5 I know is still good, right? Because that's a solid number coming from my CRM. So I'm going to keep that darker number. These other ones a little lighter to basically say, hey, I know there's more there, but we just can't measure it. Right? We're not allowed to for whatever reason. The user doesn't want us to for whatever reason. The tech isn't going to work for whatever reason. Who cares? Can't do it. That's fine. It's invisible. We know they're there. We just can't measure them. But we can measure for what we can measure for, and those numbers show 50 and 5. So what happens here? We go 50 to 5. In this case, 10% still holds true in that example. Why? Because truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. My house step doesn't necessarily change here. It doesn't have to change. Yours probably won't either. So 50 to 5, I still see my 10%. I go, cool, that's no big deal. Now, this one does, 5 to 50. And again, I'm using this as an example. It won't work out like this in the real world, but just to give you the example. Now it's 100% of the people that start the checkout purchase, okay, in our little example here, 100%. So why is that happening? Because I'm using 2 different data sources now. I'm using Google Analytics to feed this one. I'm using CRM to feed that one. I'm comparing apples to oranges a little bit. They're both fruit, right? Both behaviors, but they're coming from different plants, right? Different trees. So I know there's going to be a little wobbliness here in the numbers, but that's okay because all I need is trends and patterns. And what I'm realizing here is this, what used to be 50% is now 100% because I need to change how I look at it. The trend is changing for me. My recipe of how I get to my results is different. Speaking of results, what is my result? Am I still closing 5% of the sales coming in per Google Analytics? No, I am now closing 10% of the sales. So I change my forecast. I start using the new rules. And this is the thing that people aren't doing. They're freaking out, trying to hang on to the old rules, demanding that those should continue to work, even though everything around them in the world is changing. You cannot hold on to your old rules. You have to redefine them. You can use the old foundation. You can still use the same foundations. Again, truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. That's a foundation. You can use that, keep that, but you just got to realize, okay, I got to recalculate things because the map is changing, right? How you map things out changes. The territory doesn't change. The behaviors still happen. But the map has changed. How you think about it has to change. So now my new map is this. Instead of what it used to be, which was 10% and then 50% of those and then 5% total, now it's 10%, 100% of those ends up giving me 10% total of my conversions based upon how my new numbers are. So I can see all of this, right? I have actions that I can actually take now. Now, this is what it's for. It's for the actions. So I have a question here. How many page views do I need to get a sale? Because as a marketer, honestly, we don't care about numbers. We don't want to be driven by it. We don't want to know just a ton of numbers for numbers' sake. That's not the point. It's the numbers so we can go optimize, right? The numbers lead us to go tell us what actions to take to improve the results. But we have to be able to answer questions like, well, how many page views is it going to take me to get a sale, right? Before, it was 5% of the page views to get a single sale. So what is that? 20% of the page views, I'd have 20 page views to go through. And for 20 page views, I would get a sale, right? That was it. That was the old way of doing it. And I would say, oh, cool. Well, based upon how we measure, I'm going to go use my traffic abilities and I'm going to get traffic to get at least 20 page views for every, and I should average 20 page views for one sale, right? That's all I'm doing here. So back in before, it used to be 20. But now what is it? Now it's changed because the map has changed. Again, behaviors are still happening. We can't measure them as much. That's okay. We don't need to. We just need trends and patterns. Think about it when you're playing billiards or pool. You kind of call your shots, right? 8-ball corner pocket. That's what we're doing here. So now we're going to look at answering this question. How many page views to get a sale? Well, now that things have changed, now that we can't measure as much, but we can measure something, right? That we have something there. That's all we need. Now we can ask this question in the same question and just, it's going to be a different answer now because it's how we're measuring it, right? It's how we're measuring it. So per Google Analytics, now to get it's 10%, right? So now because it's 10%, in order for me to do that, I need to get how many page views per Google Analytics? 10 page views, not 20 anymore. So it used to be 20 in the old way of doing things because I could measure fully what was going on. But now because I can only measure partial, now it's 10. For every 10, I'm going to get a sale based upon what is going on right now with the way that it's measured. Does that mean I send less traffic? No, not at all. It means based on how we're measuring it now, based on how it is relatively measured, because we know that there's for every, roughly speaking at this point, per this example, for every one person being measured, one person is not being measured. So if I measure Google Analytics and know that 50 is there, then basically it's 100. I would know that, right? Because I fill in the blank, but I can't prove that this is there because it's invisible. So I have to use this measurement. This one I have. This one we still have. You're still going to have platforms that will measure. There will still be Facebook ads. There will still be Google ads. There will still be Google Analytics. There will still be a million other platforms that will help you to measure and spit out numbers. Your job is making sure you're getting the number from the most useful source of truth and that you're stitching it together into a story, right? Into your setup here so that you can answer questions like this. And when you have these numbers, when you have your results and you know how you're getting those results, right? And imagine if you added dollars and cents in here for revenue amounts and things like that. But when you know that, you can answer any question you want that will lead you to an action. How many page views to get a sale? How many page views to make $100? How many page views to get $100 in profit? How many checkouts do I need to get to $100 in profit? How many checkouts do I need to get a sale? We can measure for all of that. And we can see that and we can answer those questions, which means as marketers, we can still take action. We are not marketing in the blind because you know how things are going to happen. And more importantly, this is a forecast. You're not just going, well, this is what happened yesterday, so I guess it's going to happen again tomorrow. It's not what you're doing. You don't just randomly take action and hope it's going to happen. You don't want to do random acts of marketing. We want to be out there saying, here's what's supposed to happen next week. Next week, I'm going to get per Google Analytics 50 page views to my offer page. Of those, 5 of them should go to the checkout. Of those, all of them, right, or pretty close to all of them will purchase for an average dollar amount of blah, 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 blah. and you measure against your forecast. Why do we constantly measure against the forecast? Because of trends changing, because of superstorms coming in, because the rules might change, which might cause you to rechange your map, right? Update your maps so that you can still answer these questions, make your best educated guess as to how you're going to move the needle, how you're going to call a shot, how you're going to improve your marketing results. And that is how we measure when things can't be measured. You have to use truth is in the trend, power is in the pattern. All right. So with that, hopefully you got a couple of one things at least from this. First, if you don't know your results and how, we would call results and how, you got to know what your results are and how you got those results. Then that's the first thing you do because you can't do anything else until you know that. You got to have some visibility before you can improve visibility. So that's the first thing. Then rework and rethink about what's going on with your organization. Yes, Google Analytics is going to start going down. It doesn't mean the users aren't there. It just means Google Analytics can't see them, but that's okay. It just needs a big enough sample size for you to get a trend. Once you have a trend, the truth is on the trend, the power is in the pattern. You can build a map. You can still know your results and how. You can still improve things. You can still take action. You can still predict what's going to happen based on that action. And that's the key. As long as you can still forecast and predict, you are fine. You just have to be able to make sure that you focus on forecasting and predicting and don't get caught up on all the drama that's happening with these superstorms right now. All right, now next week we're going to talk about doing actually a What's New edition because it's the first workshop of the month. So we do a What's New edition, and we're going to look back over April 2021, and we're going to talk about all the features and updates and changes that have happened to Google Analytics, Tag Manager, Data Studio, and others. If you would like that and you are not already subscribed to this channel, please take a second to subscribe. I think the kids say smash that button. So you don't actually have to smash it. A gentle click will be just fine. But if you subscribe to this channel, you'll be notified and have access to that workshop as well. So thank you for doing that. And for those that are already subscribers on our YouTube channel, thank you. Love having you here. I also want to make sure that you know about the Measurement Marketing Academy. It is our flagship product that we have. Why we built the Academy? One very simple reason is to teach you this stuff, is to go through this framework, to show you how to plan things out and build a plan, how to build it out properly, and then ultimately what actions you're supposed to take. Actually, when you jump into the acting part of things, what do you do? And how do you actually get to the point where you can improve results? Stop marketing the blind, start actually improving your revenue and results consistently, and more importantly, predictably. You got to be able to forecast and call those shots. That's what we help you do. Now, the way that we do that, we really have 4 key areas. There's courses, of course. There's Ask Instructor Support, my personal favorite. And there is the on-demand workshop library that is also there, as well as the Winner Circle community. It's a few other things as well, but these are the main highlights. So the 4 key parts of that. Now, the courses, and I just want to kind of help you understand what the access is that you'll have access to. You get access to all the courses. I've been actually on YouTube, as a matter of fact. I've got some comments. People are asking me, do I get all the courses? You get all the courses, including any updates that we do, which we do fairly often, and also including any new courses that we release, which we try to do at least on a quarterly basis with a new course. Currently, we have over 20 courses, I believe, back there, at least 20. And when we sell them individually at around a couple $100, some a little more. So that's how we get this $3,400 in value. You have access to that every single month when you're in the academy, access to that $3,500 worth of value. Now, the Ask an Instructor support, that is unlimited instructor support. There's an entire section that is dedicated between you and your instructor. You ask questions. You can send over videos and screenshots. Your instructors will send over video and screenshots back. It is unbelievable. It is way, way beyond I lost my password kind of support. It's not the kind of support it is. It's like having a consultant on call. Somebody you can ask for, somebody you can talk through, you can screenshot stuff. Again, the instructors are 9 times out of 10 sending you videos and screenshots back. It is incredibly personalized. It is worth the price of the academy just for this feature, the Ask Instructor support. It is unlimited, and it is, if we sold it on its own, $497 value. Again, for the month, if you think about when you're in the academy, what you're getting access to, it's unbelievable to have access to somebody who gets marketing, understands what you're trying to do, and can help you get unstuck and on your way. Now, the third component, the on-demand workshop library, we have over 200 additional workshops in addition to the courses, workshops like these, right? Where we've got very specific topics that we cover, workshops that were just they weren't big enough for a course, but they were important. They're trendy. We need to, adjust things. When Tag Manager came up with a brand new preview, we did multiple workshops on that to help people through that stage till we had time to update the entire Google Tag Manager course, like that sort of stuff. So there's on-demand workshop libraries back there for you as well. Again, you've got access to those. We True Stories used to sell those for $20 a piece. That's how we have $4,000 worth of value just in that section alone. And then finally, there's the Winner Circle community. This is a place where you can actually go get help from members. The idea is that, yes, the instructors are really good at measurement marketing stuff. We're very good at that. We can help with strategy questions. We can help with implementation questions. We can help kind of no matter what you need. But the winner circle is where other members are, and they have other skills. Some of them are better at certain platforms. Some of them are better at maybe technical SEO, and members share with their own super skills back there in the winner circle community. So another place that you can get help. It's a great place to network. Again, that I think is pretty good value. $100 easily for that one. That total brings us to about $8,500 of value in training and support that you have access to every single month that you are a part of the Academy member. If you are interested in that, if that sounds interesting, it is less than $8,500 a month. Just go learn more at measure.tips/getacademy. Just type that in, measure.tips/getacademy, and it will take you to the Academy page where you can see where the most recent options are for purchase. Again, there were at this point in time, and I imagine for some time to come, there are monthly and annual options. I think annual is the best deal, but there are monthly and annual options for those that are there. And of course, you can take a look at the 30-day guarantees and everything else that page has. Again, measure.tips/getacademy if you are interested at all in learning this framework and really understanding measurement marketing in general. Now, if it's just not ready for you, you're not ready for something, you don't want to put any money into it, or you just can't for whatever reason, I totally get that as well. We have a free level of our membership that you are definitely invited to take advantage of. It's called the Measurement Marketing Toolbox. It has a ton of tools in it, lots of ebooks and trainings, tools. It's free, completely free for you to do that. Again, you don't have the courses, you don't have the instructional support, you don't have all the on-demand workshops, you don't have the Winner Circle community, but you do get a bunch of other stuff. So if you're just getting started and you're not quite sure if you're ready to invest in this is what I would do. Look at that. Again, to get there, measure.tips/WW will get you to the toolbox. So measure.tips/WW to create a free toolbox membership. And with that, we'll officially bring this workshop to a close. This has been Strategy Session, how to measure what can't be measured. In other words, how to deal with invisible data. Thanks again for watching this workshop, and we will see you on the next one. Take care.